welcome to Planning for the Unexpected, a new series presented by the Older Women's Network in New South Wales. I'm Alice Mantel, and our topic today is the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning, otherwise known as decluttering for beginners. It can be one of the hardest tasks to be involved in as we set ourselves up for the future, so we hope to give you some tips today. My co-host, Amanda Armstrong, is in the thick of it, so I'm going to be asking her some questions about how it's going for her. And soon we'll meet a friend of mine who has decluttered and lived to tell the tale. So hello, Amanda.
Hello, Alice, and welcome everyone.
Today we welcome your questions. Just type them into the chat as you're watching and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. You may have some good tips to share. Our advice throughout this series is general and designed to help you plan. You might need professional help if you or a family member are having problems managing your belongings. Now, Amanda, you've been doing something called Swedish death cleaning. That makes me very nervous. What does that expression really mean?
Well, Alice, yes, I admit I've become a devotee of Swedish death cleaning, but as I think you mentioned, it is the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. It's not as scary as it sounds. So the idea is that in Sweden, it's a cultural thing that you take care of your own possessions as you age. You are responsible for getting rid of your possessions so that the next generation, your children or your family members, friends, they don't have the job of clearing out your house, your apartment, that you've already pared back your possessions to just what you need. And it's a benefit, of course, to the people left behind, but also, and perhaps more importantly, the benefit is to you because you are being kind of unburdened of the things that you no longer use, you no longer need, or perhaps don't have any meaning to you anymore.
So I'm a bit untidy. Is that the same as being a hoarder?
Well, I'm quite untidy too, as you can see around you, but hoarding is a different thing. Hoarding is a recognised mental illness, and it means that your house becomes very difficult to live in. You have a lot of possessions, they're not really serving any purpose. It limits your movement around your house. It maybe prevents you from having people visit you, and it's a serious problem. But there are programs and people who can help you if you feel that your possessions are becoming more like hoarding. So do seek help, and that's not really what we're talking about today.
Should I be worried about having a lot of stuff? Let's assume I have stuff like furniture and glassware that belong to my parents, plus my daughter's toys and school projects, plus other things that I've collected like photos and books that I've had for years. Any ideas about what I should do about them?
Well, I really understand that problem because, for example, in the drawers just behind you are school projects, school photos, boxes of envelopes, all kinds of things that, probably are of no use now. Stuffed toys, yes, I have a large box of sort of creatures like this little fellow.
Oh, he's gorgeous.
Isn't he? I mean, how can I get rid of this little
I
little
would
guy?
find it very hard.
Very difficult, but he's been sitting in a cupboard feeling lonely for a while, so probably some small child might enjoy him more than I am. But yes, what do you do with those things? It's a big project to work out homes for all of these objects. It's a research project really, and it takes time.
Yeah. And do you think that people are more interested in decluttering because they're thinking about downsizing? Is that something that you're thinking about?
Well, no. I mean, that's a good motivator, isn't it? You're downsizing, you're selling your house, you're moving to a smaller place. You have to reduce the number of possessions that you have. But even if you're not considering that at this moment, there is something very liberating and freeing about clearing out the things that you don't need anymore, giving yourself more space, preparing and planning for the future, what this series is all about, so that you're not giving yourself a huge task down the track or your family members when you can't undertake it because you're not well enough. So I don't think you don't need to be downsizing to do this. It's a good thing to do at any time.
Yeah, but I'm going to introduce you today to meet an old friend of mine, another Amanda, who has decluttered and downsized in a very short time and lived to tell the tale. Hi there, Amanda. Thank you for volunteering to share your lived experience of decluttering. That includes moving out of a house into a smaller house with us on this podcast. I think that explaining about how you went about decluttering will be of great interest to those of us who are trying to approach this task, which seems to be so overwhelming.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here today, Alice. I'm really delighted. It's been a fantastically interesting experience moving everything out of our old place into various skips, bags to go to Vinnie's and so on. So yeah, I'm really happy to talk to you about it. It's great.
Okay, now just to set the scene for our audience, I happen to know that you, Amanda, used to live in the same house in a Sydney suburb for around 70 years, and that your mother and your grandmother used to live in that house as well. Yet, approximately 2 years ago, you decided to sell that house and move to the Central Coast where you now live. What brought you to make that change in your life?
Well, there were quite a few factors, Alice. A big one was that our eldest son and his wife had bought a house up in New Miner on the Central Coast. And they were really keen for us to be closer to them as we got older, which was lovely. I mean, we would love to be close to them as well. And so, we were thinking about that. The other thing was Bruce's mum and my husband's mum and dad had a place at Bookawat Bay, which is about 10 minutes away from New Miner Beach. So we knew that this area, which they call the peninsula, really, really well. It's a great area because it's only about an hour by train or by car from Sydney, and yet you've got the stunning beaches of Umina and Ocean Beach, Patonga, and so on, and you've got fantastic shops and marvelous medical services. It's such a surprise. It's a really great place to be. So there was the moving of the son and his wife. There was also a sense that we really wanted to be able to help our boys with their mortgages. Everyone knows what mortgages are like at the moment. One son, the youngest son, was still renting and he was paying about $500 a week for an apartment in Chatswood. And our son and his wife who'd moved had $1 million mortgage up here at Umina. So to be able to give them a significant amount of money has just completely changed their lives. Our youngest son has gone from thinking he was never going to be able to save up for a deposit, he'd be renting forever, to now he has got enough money to buy an apartment up in Brisbane where he's moved. And our son's been able to go other son's been able to go freelance because all of a sudden he's not got this $1 million mortgage completely hanging over him.
Sorry, what about the maintenance issues?
I was just going to say, yes. So our old house was 101 years old. And I should add also that my mother and grandmother were renters. We bought in 1978. So for all the time, 40 years my mum and grandmother had been there, no maintenance had been done on the old place because the landlord hadn't bothered. So we did quite a lot ourselves. But still, when a house is over 100 years old, it has always got maintenance things to be done. Whereas up here now in Umina, our house is only 30 years old and it's just beautiful. There's nothing to be done. That's such a relief to not have that concern about ongoing maintenance.
So you and your family made the decision to move and you set yourself the goal of having to sell your previous house, to have it emptied and ready for sale in about a month. That seems incredibly ambitious. Tell us about the contents of your previous home.
Well, I should also explain that the reason that we decided we needed to move so quickly on getting the place decluttered and everything moved out was that it was 2 years ago now, and the interest rates were just about to be risen by the RBA, and we knew that as soon as the interest rates went up, house prices would go down because people wouldn't be, we thought, been proved to be wrong, I think, but we thought people wouldn't be able to pay as much. So we knew that we had to get the place empty and ready for sale before the interest rates rose. I think we'd had one rise and the second one was coming. So we had this incredible time constraint. And we just, we told the real estate agent that we would give us 4 weeks and the place will be empty and ready for, because it had to be renovated. You know, they do all the renovations and then the styling. So we gave ourselves 4 weeks. Yep.
So we're talking about you moving several generations of possessions in about a month. Did you develop a system for dealing with all those items?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we moved Bruce's mum and dad many years ago from Aruba up to the Central Coast, we got a skip because his dad was a hoarder. And we knew that one of the, there is some stuff, no matter how much I think you want to recycle things, there is a point at which you've got to do landfill. So we got the skip. It was a very big skip. We parked it out the front and we said, right, stuff that we absolutely don't want and you cannot give away to Vinnie's or anyone else goes in the skip. And that included a lot of decades old paperbacks that were all yellowing that, not Vinnie's couldn't sell them. Nobody would want them. But there's also an awful lot of rubbish, an unbelievable amount of rubbish in the house when you go through it. So, so we developed a system where we would have a look at an item and we'd say, is it going to go in a skip? Is it good enough that Vinnie's could use it and sell it and make some money? Or is it essential for us? We need to keep it.
Okay. And did you do this all by yourself?
No, certainly not. We were very, very lucky. So we had our son and his wife and our youngest son all were amazing help. And our goddaughter, who's a little force of nature, she's in her 20s, she drove up every weekend from Canberra to help us. And she was just amazing.
So you'd recommend somebody helping you with the decluttering?
100%. It's a 2-person job. I think our real estate agent recommended that we go room by room. So we did that. And so maybe Bruce would be in his bedroom with someone and the person holds up something and you look at it and you have to make that decision. You can't dither. You just go, skip, Vinnie's, keep. I think the other thing is some things we thought were valuable. We didn't want to sell them, but they really could be used. Because as I was saying, we want to recycle, don't we? We don't want to chuck everything out. So I found Facebook Marketplace was a fantastic space.
So you actually wanted to sell some of the things?
No, give them away.
Give them away, okay.
But you can put items up on Facebook Marketplace for free, and we had the stipulation that you must come and collect it.
Yeah.
And we just got so many.
What sort of things did you put on Marketplace?
Well, there was an antique chest of drawers that didn't shut properly. That got snapped up by a guy who was renovating them for his old house he bought in the country. There was a barbecue that was in need of cleaning, but the guy who got it said, I love cleaning stuff, that's fine. My grandfather's antique desk, which needed refurbishing. And a lady from Turramurra came down and she said, this is what I do. I take these. It was a beautiful, I didn't want it anymore. I lived with it for 70 odd years. But anyway, she took it away to be refurbished. But the nicest story is our very heavy outdoor wooden furniture, which a young couple came and collected in a trailer. And after that, the following Christmas, she sent me photos of the wooden furniture completely refurbished by her father-in-law, very lovingly. It looked gorgeous. And she said, Amanda, we had our whole family round to our new house and they celebrated Christmas on your furniture, and I just wanted you to see it.
Oh, that's a great story.
So, yeah.
What about, I know that you were a big collector of sheets and towels. Tell us the story that happened with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think anyone, when they open up their linen press and have a look inside after decades of living in a place, how do we get all those sheets and towels and tea towels and hand towels? And it's unbelievable. But I had a friend staying with me from Lismore, and it was the time when the Lismore floods had just happened. And he said, look, they are desperate up in Lismore for donations of sheets and towels. So, and the things that I had mostly were good quality. It was just I had so many of them. So bags and bags of sheets and towels went up to Lismore.
That's a pretty good result.
Yeah, people who'd lost everything in the floods. But the other thing was I've heard that some people donate sheets and towels, or particularly towels, to the local vets, because vets are always looking for old towels.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, so I think there are plenty of places, that you can donate those things too.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand about those kinds of items. I understand about furniture, but that remind you of certain people. But what about your own things? Now, I know you were a teacher and a university lecturer for many years. You must still have had some of your lesson plans and written work that you were thought were better than average, and that you were kind of attached to. Did you keep those things as well?
No, it is. I mean, of course, you have a lot of stuff up in the cloud these days, but I did have quite a lot of hard copies of lesson outlines, plans, lecture notes from uni and what have you. And I mean, in all honesty, I retired in 2012, so that's 12 years ago. And the person that I am now is someone who's very comfortable with. I was very lucky to have a very wonderful career until I was 60, and then I've had a really great life since then, doing volunteering in lots of different areas, particularly with refugees and Indigenous issues, and all that stuff, those hard copies of lesson outlines and things, that's just no longer relevant. Like, why would I hold on to it? I created it at the time, and they were really successful lessons, and that's all fine. But no, don't need it. It's not part of my life anymore.
What about the things that you decided to keep? How did you decide on those things?
Yes. Well, I think, and this is something that I feel quite strongly about. Our possessions really do define our identity. They are our memories. They give us a sense of belonging to, our family, our ancestors, our friends who've given us stuff. So possessions are inherently very important to us. And so of course there are things that you really can't throw out. What I did was I had some lovely things like my grandmother's Beatrix Potter figurines, beautiful plates and glassware that meant a lot, that we collected around the world, like from the Venetian decanter and things like that. What I did was I bought a display cabinet from IKEA, which is not big, it's tall, but it's not too wide. It fits beautifully out the back, and it's all glass. My husband put it together, so wonder he didn't, slice his fingers off. But you can just look into it and see all those little precious things, and they're just contained in a small space, and they're all there. And I've got a few things you can see as well. I didn't chuck everything out, but what I really chucked out was all the rubbish. If anyone looks in their drawers, in their, like you've got the bookcase and the cabinet behind you, if you open that up and look at what's in there, particularly by the time you're our age, how many pieces of glassware have you got? How many platters have you got? How many, plates?
But personally, do you feel that having less stuff, do you feel reduced as a person by having reduced your possessions?
Not at all. It's the most wonderful feeling of liberation. I've still got the things that remind me of my grandmother. I've still got some of Mum's things. I've still got plenty of photographs, around the place, and paintings. We've got some lovely paintings that mean a lot, and big photographs. But it's just a very liberating. You feel more yourself, I think, because you're not worried by the oppression, the pressing of all the junk that you no longer need.
Is there anything you would have done differently when you were decluttering?
No, absolutely not. It was such a good process. It was the advice from the real estate agent of attack one room at a time. So if you've got a few people going, you see, my daughter-in-law in particular was brilliant with our front room, which was crammed full of, mementos and God knows what. And she was just, very, very sensible. She'd just hold up a figurine or whatever. and she had a box there already, 2 boxes actually, one for the skip, one for Vinnie's. And I guess we had one for keep, although I think we just put that back on the shelf. But we just systematically went through every single item. I was doing that in the front room with her while my husband was in his bedroom with our son. Now, something else that he did was in his filing cabinet. He had all our sort of receipts and everything for decades, like going back practically to when we were in our 20s. So he actually bought a shredding machine.
Oh, okay.
And he spent, I can't tell you, Alice. So look, it seems to me like days, because you have to hold each thing, as it goes through. And he had hundreds and hundreds of documents that he no longer needed. But you hold on to those receipts in case you might need them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So after all of this was finished, I mean, you'd moved into the new house. How did you feel?
Oh, so happy.
Oh,
yeah, really happy. We love where we are. We've made a lot of new friends up here, which is quite surprising, but they have the same people that we've met through having the same interests. And so we've made some lovely friends. We just love that the natural environment is so beautiful. To be able to go down 5 minutes away and walk on the beach. Or look out my window where I am now, and I see just the escarpment with all the bush on it. No, and it's lovely being close to our son and his wife too.
Okay, so Amanda, thank you very much for sharing this insight into your obviously very successful cluttering experience. I know that for me, it's brought into focus that I can let go of those many things on shelves that have been completely unused for years, and I can do it without letting go of the many memories that they represent.
That's very important, actually, Alice. Something I did want to say just quickly is if you've got something that just means so much to you, but there is, like, I had a little stuffed toy I gave my husband when he was sick in his 20s, and I had kept it. It was a little green hippopotamus. There was no point in holding on to it, but it meant so much. I took a photograph of it.
Okay.
And I did that with quite a lot of things. And I've got to be honest with you, I haven't looked at it. I haven't felt the need to look at any of the photographs. But it's just, if you feel, it's got to go, but it's because it's just rubbish. But there is a sentimental attachment there. Just take a photo on your phone.
Amanda, thank you so much for sharing your lived experience. You're going to be a hard act to follow, is all I can say.
Thank you, Alice.
Oh, your inspiration.
Pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you.
She sure is. Thank you, Amanda. I'm in awe. I mean, that is incredible, doing all of that work in a 100-year-old house, generations of possessions, in 4 weeks.
That's
right.
I mean,
that is a high bar, she said.
I certainly agree with that. But I remember there was this Marie Kondo phase. Do you remember that was popular for a while?
I do.
The idea that if an item doesn't give you joy or it isn't useful, eliminate it. Have you ever tried that idea?
Well, funny you should say that, actually, because I have the book here, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying by Marie Kondo. Have I actually really studied it? No, I haven't. I think it's going in the giveaway box. However,
I think I need to look at it.
You can borrow it. You can borrow it.
Okay.
But this idea of the sparking joy, that doesn't really work for me. I mean, I think it's kind of more complex than that. I'll just give you an example that I was thinking about the other day when I was trying to clean out my clothes. So I came upon this beautiful jacket, which was my great aunt's, and it's obviously handmade. And when I thought about it, it would be maybe 90 or 100 years old. I was very fond of her. She lived till she was 97.
What a beautiful jacket,
it's beautiful,
though. Lovely
but
fabric.
It doesn't fit me. Would I have it altered? Should I give it to a museum? Should I, maybe it really just needs to go to Vinnie's, but I just can't part with it. It doesn't spark joy, but it's an historical object that sort of connects me with a previous generation.
I have to say, when I look at that jacket, it does make me feel happy. I just think that if you were, say, a theatrical type, you would find that a beautiful jacket to wear.
Yes.
So I think the idea of recycling it, that you could give it away and think somebody will really enjoy this.
Yes, it is a really beautiful piece. But I guess our homes are full of all of these sorts of things that do evoke memories and connections with the past, and that's why this whole process is really quite hard.
Yeah. So do you think there is a way about going about decluttering? How would you go about decluttering? We've heard how my friend Amanda approached the task. Have you got some tips about how you're decluttering?
Well, I have to say that the Swedes have been quite an influence on me. I've watched the TV series about Swedish Death Cleaning on SBS, and I have read the book by the person who wrote about it, Margareta Magnusson. And so I picked up tips from the Swedes. Now, essentially, you have to approach this in a very methodical way, as Amanda said. She did a room-by-room method, which actually I think is really good. She had categories, and I would have the throw, the landfill, the recycle, which is, anything paper, donate or give away to friends. And then if there's items that you think you could sell, that's another category too.
Yes, of course.
You've got to spread everything out, and then it's really quite horrifying to see how many items you actually have, and it's quite motivating too, because you think, how could they possibly go back into the space they came from?
But it's also very time consuming, isn't it?
It is. So you do need someone to help you for two reasons. One is having an objective person who can really say to you, like my sister did recently, why do you need 6 colanders in your kitchen? It's ridiculous. You only really ever need 1 or maybe 2. Someone who can just ask you those questions.
Who would volunteer for that sort of job?
True. Well, luckily Amanda, she had her goddaughter and family members to help her do this speed declutter. So a family member's good actually, because part of this process I found was about reminiscing, particularly if you have items from your parents or your grandparents that only really family members understand. So you can take that moment of going, oh gosh, I remember seeing this on grandma's dressing table, this beautiful mirror. And you can talk about it for a minute. Then you kind of make a decision. You've had a moment with the item, and then you make your decision.
I would have thought, though, that in its sense, when I've been trying to do it, I try to start with things that aren't so sentimental. The colanders I can understand.
That was easy.
So you started with the kitchen.
Started with the kitchen, and that is really easy. You're not really attached to anything in particular. There might be maybe a salad bowl that somebody gave you for a birthday that you've got to think about. But really, that's pretty easy. The bathroom is fantastic. Because
bathroom?
Yes, because
it's
because it's full of. I mean, it's also quite a horrifying process as well, because you realise how old is this lipstick, and you think, and so you realise anything older than even a year or 6 months, really for hygiene and health reasons, you shouldn't really even be putting on your skin anyway.
I don't want to think about that.
So you can hurl so much out of a bathroom, and then you've got that joyous feeling of opening the drawer, and there's just a tube of moisturiser and
I've never had that.
One lipstick, and it feels really good. So that's a kind of high satisfaction, quick result kind of thing. Start with those areas, bathroom, kitchen, and you can kind of achieve them, in a morning or a day. The really hard things, and these are the things that I have yet to get to, are the boxes of photographs under the bed. That are not just my own, but from my parents and my grandparents as well.
I suppose you could scan them, I
Yes,
guess.
you can scan them. So you have to cull them, you have to scan them, and you have to write on the back of them, because haven't we all gone through that process of just looking at family photos and having no idea who they are because nobody wrote on the back of them?
Yes,
right
that's
on the
true.
back.
That's right.
And maybe attach little labels and tags to other things that have a meaning to the family. The back of paintings, very important. Put something on the back of a painting that tells you a little bit about the work, where it was acquired, if it had any emotional significance. My parents had some paintings from coastal Victoria that they got for their wedding that they chose. And my father wrote on the back of them, but otherwise they probably wouldn't have meant anything
to you. Yeah.
So writing on the back, and having someone to help you, starting with the easy stuff, working towards the harder stuff, and bearing in mind it is an emotional process. It's hard to start and hard to push through. It's tiring.
I think the furniture is difficult in a way. I mean, some of it's because it's emotional. But I've just recently, because I have been inspired by your activities in this direction, I tried to recycle 2 sofas that I had, and they were in good, one of them better quality than the other, both leather sofas. It's been really difficult, I'd have to say. I tried to give them away on various sites like Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace. I tried various charities that say they will collect furniture, and they refused, quite a few of them. I tried at least 3, I think. So I did some research to try and find some charities that would take it, but the reality was somewhat different. So one sofa, in fact, it managed to recycle itself. Some people came and took it away. The other one, unfortunately, I have just organised to send it to a council cleanup. What do you think about that?
Look, isn't it really tragic? There's all this really good quality but heavy furniture that doesn't suit, modern houses, doesn't fit in modern houses, is heavy, sometimes not super comfortable. And furniture's cheap now, so people go and they buy a new Scandinavian kind of furniture.
That's right.
And they don't want your heavy wardrobe or your leather lounge suite. Yes, I've tried to give furniture away to my children as well, and they're just
my
interested.
child not even vaguely interested at all.
Yeah.
So I think the younger generation are used to having cheap furniture. Furniture used to be very expensive, and so it was very valuable, whereas now it's not.
That's right. So some charities will list the sorts of things that they need. Mm-hmm. It's really worth looking at all the websites that they, chests of drawers, smaller couches.
They would take.
There's items, double beds sometimes.
Beds they would take. That wasn't that
So
difficult.
this is part of your research project, and it's really, if you can donate them or you can give them away, it's so much better than all of this stuff going to landfill, because it is a very much a guilt-inducing exercise, because some of these things just have to go to landfill. You don't want to give charities, Salvos and Vinnies and the Red Cross.
Well, they won't take it these days.
You don't want to give them stuff that they then have to get rid of.
Yeah.
In terms of smaller items, these, kinds of,
It's lovely.
Like, once again, from my grandparents, I wouldn't use these. I've got these lovely ones. But, I have to make a decision. Would I give this to a friend? If you would give it to a friend, a good friend, you can give it to Vinnie's. But if something is chipped, or you're just passing on the problem for them to pay the landfill costs. So really think carefully about what you're donating.
So I have items like these, vases, crockery, all sorts of things that are really I'm attached to, but I don't really use them. So what are you doing with particular? Say that's I presume that's part of a set of teacups.
Well, there's no saucer, but there is up on the shelf. There's a little teapot. So it's really sweet. So I guess what I've decided to do is kind of cull and have a sort of a smaller collection of really special things that might fit on, say, 2 shelves, that I have a note about their significance, and just be pretty ruthless with the rest of it. I am quite a sentimental person. This is very hard for me.
Yes.
I've got boxes and boxes of things from my parents' house in a storage unit. I'm confessing this to you.
I don't believe it. A storage unit.
The Swedes would thoroughly disapprove of that I have to go through, and that's probably at the harder end of the process.
I see. I would have thought that
narrowing down.
Would have thought going through the storage unit would be the easier part of it, isn't it?
Not in my case, no.
No?
No.
Oh.
So that's, more boxes of photos and letters and stuff that's going to take time. So I'm going easy on myself. I'm starting with the easier things.
See, I have a garage full of stuff. So it's not quite a storage unit,
yes.
but it's
cheaper than a storage unit.
Yes.
The Swedes disapprove because they just say a storage unit is just where things go to die. You don't see them, you don't look at them, you don't enjoy them, you don't use them. And the storage unit, of course, costs money. So
yes,
have to get onto our storage units. However,
So is there some way you can go? So say there are some things you really decide, I really can't live without this. Sort of the equivalent. The other Amanda was saying she has a display cabinet.
Yes.
What sort of thing would you do to those things you really can't, to look after those things you really can't let go?
Yeah, so there's the nice things that you could put in a lovely display cabinet or a shelf. You know, I think you mentioned you've got nice vases and things, and objects that you would like to keep, but you've just got a lot of them. So it's curating them nicely and enjoying them is one thing. But then there's kind of funny things like of no interest or value or significance to anyone else except you. So it might be, you know, your first teddy, or, you know, your first love letter, or maybe not that.
No.
But, you know...
It's funny. I found it very easy to get rid of those.
Things that are, you know, really have no meaning to anyone but you. An old T-shirt that was significant because of an event you went to. The Swedes have a good idea and it is for a just for me box. Oh. So you have a box, and you know, it could be quite a beautiful box.
A very big box?
Well, in my case, it would have to be a very big box. But they had quite a neat little box.
Oh, okay.
So you're putting in, you know, a couple of letters, you know, special photos, the teddy, things that are just maybe your first, I don't know, uni assignment that you got a distinction for. I know that sounds ridiculous, but
No,
I would probably do that.
I wouldn't do that.
So you put them in, and then, you know, when you've passed away, that can just be thrown away because it doesn't mean anything to anyone else. But it means you've kept these items, and occasionally you can bring them out and look at them and, you know, think about those special events in your life. So you don't have to throw away everything about your past. I think that's a really important thing.
Well, I mean, I don't want to, in a way, you know, because I suppose it's you are not just your possessions, but in a sense it also feels like you're giving away part of your identity. You're losing part of your identity. And I don't know that I really want to do that exactly. I find that difficult.
So what would be hard for you to give away in terms of your identity or throw away?
Oh, photos, probably.
Yes.
That's probably my strongest thing.
Yes,
is that
probably for me too.
Is photos, and given that we're all on digital photos these days, I suppose that's easy. Well, I don't know.
It's a big project in itself to think about how do you preserve them.
Yeah.
So that's its own project. Yes.
I have to think about that.
Yeah.
I
books.
No, I'm not attached to books on the whole at all.
Yeah. Well, you can see I am behind you. Someone I heard on the radio the other day, the writer Charlotte Wood, says she sees books, she's not attached to them. You take them out of a river, you read them, then you put them back in the river, and then the books flow on and somebody else takes them out of the river. So I thought, okay, I can relate to that. I think you don't have to have them with you. You know, you don't have to have them sitting there. You know, you enjoy them and then you pass them on. So, yeah. But I do need to, serious cull of my books, and I know Amanda culled hers by 90%. So
hers were major, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose I would feel better sort of losing some of the other stuff, some of the more junky things. I mean, they're not all really great quality or anything like that. It was interesting that the other Amanda said, you know, she felt a lot freer, you know, once she had, you know, she wasn't burdened by these things, you know. I mean, I suppose you clean them. I don't know if you even clean them. I mean, mine are all in, you know, drawers or shelves that never get touched, really.
Yes, yeah. I think that idea of unburdening is a really important one. And Amanda, you know, she's the sort of the gold star declutterer.
Yes.
It's a freeing thing that you don't have so many possessions that you're not using, that you're just looking at thinking, what am I going to do with that? You know, and then the feeling that, well, I'm dealing with it. I'm in control. I'm choosing what happens to these things, rather than, you know, when you're unwell, unable to make those decisions, somebody else is making them. Or, you know, you pass away and somebody else has to come into your house, look at all your stuff, and then
you know what they're going to do, because
it'll be in the skip.
That's in the skip.
Because they're doing it in a hurry and they don't know the significance of things. To me, the thought of that is, you know, like, I'm quite motivated by the idea of, sounds very macabre, but if I did die next week, what state would I like to leave my possessions in?
Do you think that there's
not that I'm getting it done by next week, but still.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you're not contemplating your death. Do I have to be contemplating my death to think about starting with the gentle art?
No, it's about enjoying your life now and enjoying your life in the future. So, if you kind of do it now when you're on top of things, you're not putting off this task that's sort of weighing on you. So yeah, I'm all for the incremental approach. Not like Amanda, that was great, but just
I think I'd agree with you there. I mean, I suppose the other thing I think about is that decluttering is actually thinking about yourself in the future. I mean, it's making things easier for your family, obviously, but also about yourself. I mean, you might need to downsize, and we are going to talk about downsizing eventually in this series. And being more of who you are. So thinking about your own items, what do you like? This is a painting that I like, and I do want to keep my painting that I like or my vase that I like. It's not just somewhat somebody else, even if they are my parents, what they liked.
That's right. It's what's significant to you.
Yeah.
You don't really have a responsibility to the possessions of past generations.
Yes.
They're not here now. They're not checking up on you as to whether you have that beautiful vase on prominent display.
Yes.
It's kind of a letting go process, isn't it?
Yes.
It's kind of letting go. But if you can do that in a way where you're in charge of that, I think that's really good.
I'd agree.
Well,
with you.
yeah. So. I'd encourage people to check out the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. It's I think it acknowledges that it is sort of an emotional process.
Very much so.
As well as a practical one.
Both.
Yes.
Yeah. Amanda, you've been very inspiring today. I'm not sure whether I'm ready for a major decluttering, but I'm certainly ready for an incremental one, because I think I can see that there's going to be a better future if there's less of my stuff in it. Okay, so thank you for sharing that today. We are going to be talking in May about our financial health, or how is your financial literacy?
Needing improvement, probably, I would say.
Yes, another thing for us to work on. But I'm hoping, so that's us for today. In our next episode in May, we're going to be talking about our financial health, otherwise known as improving your financial literacy.
Well, I could certainly benefit from that. So I look forward to our next episode in May, episode 3 of our series Planning for the Unexpected, presented by the Older Women's Network of New South Wales. And we do hope this has got you thinking. We're not experts, but all your tips are very valuable, and thank you for contributing those as along with your questions. Now, Alice, the Swedes have a lovely tradition of, after a bout of decluttering or intense activity, they take a break. It's called fika, and they sit and they have a nice cup of coffee and they sort of debrief on a process. So I feel we've earned that, and so let's go and have a coffee.
I'm into that for sure. It sounds great.
And we'll see you next month. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.